back at it again with another video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. So I came across an article from Mondoweiss, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, an opinion piece about the end of Israel's economy. So this is published July 19th, 2024. I'm recording this. We're in the middle of August. So a little bit of time has passed since it's been published. The end of Israel's economy. As Israel's genocidal war against Gaza continues, the Israeli economy is facing a catastrophe. The physical destruction in Israel from the war has been minimal, but one thing has been destroyed: its future. I think this line right here is pretty interesting. No state on earth has been able to inflict so much damage to the Israeli economy as the state of Israel itself. Growing indications that the economy has reached an impasse with no path forward as long as the state remains an apartheid Zionist project rejected by the whole world with the exception of the United States and Germany. From startup nation to shutdown nation, nothing short of a copyright violation, but this was a protest sign in February of 2023. The economic indicators speak of nothing less than economic catastrophe. Over 46,000 businesses have gone bankrupt, tourism has essentially stopped, and the credit rating is lowered, and bonds are sold at junk bond levels. Foreign investments have dropped by 60% in the first quarter of 2023 as a result of the policies of the far-right government before the events of October 7th, and ultimately they show no prospect of recovery. The majority of the money invested in Israelis' investment funds was diverted to investments abroad because, quote, Israelis do not want their own pension funds and insurance funds or their own savings to be tied to the state's fate. So I think that's also an important line in the piece, because if you look at the people, they don't want their own money, their own funds, their own savings to be tied to the fate of its own state. So if the people don't believe in the stability and prospects in the future, then that's a serious issue. Intel scuttled a $25 billion investment plan. Crisis strikes deeper at the means of production of the economy. So if you look at the financial indicators, especially the power grid, largely switched to natural gas, but still depends on coal to supply demand. The biggest supplier of coal is Colombia. So Colombia, right here. So has to pass through the Straits of Gibraltar, Mediterranean to Israel. Biggest supplier of coal to Israel is Colombia, which announced that it would suspend coal shipments to Israel as long as the genocide was ongoing. After Colombia, the next two biggest suppliers were South Africa and Russia. So if you look at South Africa down here, that coal would have to pass through the Bab el-Mandab Strait, which has been essentially shut down by the Houthis in Yemen. So if you're trying to get coal from South Africa to power your electric grid, it's not likely going to happen because the Bab el-Mandab Strait has been closed off by the Houthis in Yemen and prohibiting Israeli ships going to Israel and Israeli shipping also. Plus, Russia also have to go through the Black Sea. There's been obviously war between Russia and Ukraine the past 2-3 years. Without reliable and continuous electricity, Israel will no longer be able to pretend to be a, quote, developed economy. Server farms do not work without 24-hour power. International tech companies have already started closing up their branches. Another line that I really thought was interesting, professor who is also an economist, argued that the Israeli economy is held together by about 300,000 people. Basically, universities, tech companies, and hospitals. If those people leave, we won't become a third world country, we just won't be anymore. Very, very interesting points laid out in this article. It adopts any belligerent approach towards any state that criticizes its policies and has passed a last minute and unrealistic budget for 2024. Two senior economists published a secret report in which they predict that Israel will not survive to its 100th year. The report is kept secret because they do not want it to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. On the 75th Independence Day, Haaretz published an editorial on both its English and Hebrew editions with the headline, quote, "Will Israel survive to celebrate 100 years only if Netanyahu resigns?" And this was published about a month or so ago, but Netanyahu shows no sign of resigning or relinquishing power because he's ultimately trying to prevent elections and to save his own skin. Another interesting point. 3 historians, 2 Zionists, 1 anti-Zionist, have declared that the Zionist project has come to an end. When a critical mass, regardless of political thought or opinion, become convinced that it has become unsustainable, they will no longer agree to invest energy, money, and risk themselves and their families for the sake of the project. Very, very interesting article. The economic indicators are not looking good for Israel. So, very, very interesting article on Mondoweiss. I don't know entirely how to pronounce it, but very interesting opinion piece released in July of 2024. So, with that, I'm going to log off. I'll see you all in the next video. Deuces.